Dear listener, before we begin our journey into the world of Elio, the clockmaker, let's take a moment to prepare ourselves for this tale. Find a comfortable position, whether you're lying in bed or resting in your favorite chair. Feel the weight of your body settling. Find it coming to rest at its center point. Take a deep breath. Now slowly release that breath. And as you breathe in again, you're going to imagine drawing in the cool night air. And as we exhale, let's breathe and flow and empty out any stress you might be holding. And with these breaths, we're going to feel our days and our thoughts and our worries. We're just going to dissolve. Now I want you to notice all the things around you, the sounds, the ticking, listen to that hum in your home. There's a subtle rhythm there. Maybe it's even the beating of your own heart. Listen to all these sounds and just let them form a soothing symphony. Let's begin. The night was still, the air cool and soft as moonlight spilled gently over the rooftops of a quiet village nestled in a valley of whispering winds. At the heart of this village, between two rows of ivy-covered houses, stood a modest workshop with a wooden sign that swayed gently with the breeze. The sign read, "Elio's Timekeepers," in faded gold lettering, each letter catching the moonlight like dewdrops at dawn. The village itself seemed to exist in a realm between sleeping and waking. Stone cottages with chimneys that breathed wisps of lavender-scented smoke into the evening air lined the winding cobblestone streets. Gardens overflowed with the night-blooming jasmine and evening primrose, their beautiful perfume carrying stories of distant lands on the cool breeze. The distant sound of the river that encircled the village provided a constant, gentle rhythm, as if the earth itself was keeping time. In the village square, an ancient oak tree spreads its branches like protective arms over the withered stone fountain. Elio had watched those branches for decades, remembering how they once reached proudly toward the autumn sky, straight and true as a clock's hands marking noon. Now they drooped, earthward, heavy with wisdom and years, as if the old tree was slowly bowing to time itself. Some villagers whispered the tree was simply tired of standing sentinel, yearning to walk away and find a new place to count another century's worth of seasons. Water trickled from the fountain's carved spouts in a musical cadence that seemed to whisper ancient lullabies. The baker's shop still held the warmth of the day's fire, and the herbalist's window displayed bottles that gleamed like captured starlight, each containing remedies distilled from moonflowers and evening dew. Time moved differently here in the square, marked not by minutes, but by the daily rhythm of the village life. The baker's morning fires and the herbalist's evening gatherings, the tree's seasonal bowing. Near the workshop, a small garden of white roses glowed silver in the moonlight, their petals moving in the perfect synchronicity with a gentle evening breeze. Among the leaves, a spider worked with clockmaker's precision, each strand of her web measured as carefully as any gear in Elio's workshop. She would wait through the night's deepest hours, her patience rivaling that of an old clockmaker himself, who even now sat bent over his workbench while others slept. These roses were Elio's pride, planted by his own hands years ago. He had chosen them for their peculiar nature, each bloom opening as the sun set, nature's very own timepiece, marking the passage from day to night. Inside the workshop, time itself seemed to dance. Hundreds of clocks lined the walls, their faces marking not just minutes and hours, but the grander measurements of existence, seasons, years, decades. Their pendulums moved with gentle purpose. Swish, whoosh, like the sound sand shifting in an hourglass. Each swing carrying crystalline moments back and forth through time. Together, they wove an invisible tapestry of moments, past and future, bound together in an endless dance. The room's patina smelled of discontinued polished wood, brass forged from a time gone by, and that peculiar warmth that seems to gather in places where dreams are crafted by hand. Through the tin panes of the window, moonlight filtered through the leaded glass, casting patterns that danced across the floor. The cool, glittery silver strands of moonlight would mix with the warm amber tones of the streetlight outside. The lights danced, one taking turns to twist and twirl around the other, shifting from cool and warm tones, mixed in a dance's display. Elio sat at his workbench. His wispy white hair would catch the lamplight like strands of spider silk, each delicate thread seeming to glow with its own inner luminance. His hands, though withered by 8 decades of craftsmanship, moved with a grace that transcended their apparent age. Every gesture flowed with the subtle precision of a master conductor leading an orchestra of gears and springs through their mechanical symphony. His movements were so refined that even the village physician once remarked that Elio's hand possessed a steadiness that would make the finest surgeons in the capital envious. The villagers spoke of the day years ago when Elio had accepted a peculiar challenge from a traveling merchant. Before a gathered crowd, he had dismantled a freshly picked rose, separating each petal with such gentle expertise that not a single delicate edge tore or crumpled. Each petal had laid out in a perfect spiral on a black velvet, creating a pattern that mimicked the inner workings of his most beloved timepieces. That same patience and pure touch now guided his fingers as they worked on his most ambitious creation yet. Before him lay a clock that seemed born from the stuff of dreams themselves, quite literally, as it happened. The face was a masterwork of silver threads as fine as gossamer, woven through midnight blue enamel that Elio had painted by hand using a brush made from a single hair. These threads caught the lamplight like dewdrops on a spider's web, creating an ever-shifting dance of light that mirrored the sky above. The phases of the moon, rendered in luminous mother of pearl, seemed to glow the inner light that pulsed in rhythm with the real moon hanging outside his workshop window. The inspiration had come to him, as all his finest ideas did, in the depths of his sleep. In his dream, he had found himself walking down an unfamiliar cobblestone street, the stones beneath his feet smooth as river pebbles. There, in a shop window that seemed to float between reality and imagination, he saw it, the perfect clock, its face alive with celestial movement. The vision had burned itself into his mind with such clarity that upon waking, his fingers had itched to begin the work, as if his hands remembered something they had yet not created. Around the clock's edge, he had set tiny stars fashioned from crushed diamonds, each one carefully selected for its pure light. Then, when they caught the lamplight, they scattered it in patterns that perfectly matched the constellations visible through the workshop window on a clear night. The pendulum, perhaps the clock's crowning achievement, took the form of a crescent moon cradling a small golden sun on its curve. As it swung in its eternal arc, the two celestial bodies appeared to chase one another in an endless dance of light and shadow, mirroring the eternal waltz of day and night. For the clock's hands, Elio had used something extraordinary. Thin strips of iron from a meteorite that had fallen in the village meadow during his childhood. He remembered that night clearly, how the star had streaked across the sky like a painter's brush dipped in light, leaving a trail of wonder in its wake. The next morning, he had found the celestial visitor still warm to the touch as he remembered it, the heart of his journey through the heaven. He had kept the precious metal for decades, waiting for a creation worthy of its cosmic origins. Now shaped into the clock's hands, the meteorite iron carved at the tip like a nightingale's wing caught in mid-flight. As they moved across the clock's face, they seemed to leave trails of stardust in their wake. Though perhaps this was merely the way the lamplight played across the metal's subtle crystalline structures, still holding echoes of the journey through the stars. The numerals defied convention. They were not numbers at all. Instead, Elio had carefully crafted 12 distinct constellations, each one marking an hour with patterns of tiny stars. He had studied the night sky for months to capture these celestial arrangements, working with a jeweler's loupe and the finest of tools to set microscopic points of silver and crystal. When caught in the right light, these star patterns seemed to twinkle and pulse, as if they remembered their counterparts wheeling overhead in the vast dome of the night sky. Each constellation told its very own story, tales of heroes and creatures that had been whispered around fire since the dawn of time. Most remarkable was the voice he had given his creation, for a voice it surely had, not the mechanical tick, tock that marked time in ordinary homes, but something that seemed to emerge from the space between sleeping and waking. Each second passed like a sound from a distant wind chime stirred by a summer breeze, reminiscent of the crystal bells that rang in the mountain temples Elio had only read about in the traveler tales. The hour chime he had crafted to mimic the song of the nightingales, but greater still, as if he heard it through the layers of dreams. The sound floated on the air like petals on a stream, soft enough to soothe the child to sleep, yet clear enough to remind listeners that time itself is passing with exquisite grace. Elio sighed, his withered hands coming to rest on the smooth wood of his workbench, polished by decades of dreams taking shape beneath his fingers. If only I could see the world beyond this village, he whispered. his voice harmonizing with the ethereal symphony of his clocks. To grab timepieces, kings, queens. To leave behind a legacy of dreams, captured in brass and silver. The words hung in the air like motes of dust and sunbeams, each one carrying the weight of years spent watching travelers come and go, while he remained marking time in his quiet corner of the world. Outside, the stars seemed to linger closer to his window, as if they too were curious about this man who captured their essence in metal and glass. The moon, perhaps recognizing something of itself in Elio's creation, cast a particular beam through the workshop window. Not the usual silver-white moonlight, but something more, almost golden in its quality. Where it touched the face of his latest masterpiece, the clock began to glow with an almost supernatural radiance, as if the moon and the timepiece were engaged in a conversation only they could understand. The gentle rhythms of his clockwork orchestra surrounded like a lullaby, each tick and chime blending into a symphony of time itself. Elio's eyes grew heavy, and the weight of the dreams yet to come pressing softly against them. Then drifted into sleep, more vivid and real than anything he had known